Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're doing fantastic today. Max here on the command center. And how are you guys doing today? I hope you're doing fantastic. It's March 28, 2026, I think. So, I'm here. I'm on live stream. That's awesome. In the middle of nowhere, just putting my equipment there and helping Mitch on the other hand. So thanks for tuning in. So I'm going to start the live stream soon. People are just lining up here and getting here. So it's packing up very, 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 very soon, which is interesting. I just want to see where you guys are watching from. Where you guys are watching from. I just want to see where you guys are watching from. Where are you? I'm in Edmonton. So please. Red Deer Science, let's go, Alberta, of course, Red Deer. I was in Red Deer the other day. I was doing the live stream from Jason Levine's event from down there. That was cool. St. Albert. Why are you guys from St. Albert? I was there. So we got folks from Edmonton, Calgary, Innisfail, Fort Mac, you gotta be there. I will be there on April the 1st. I'm talking to my audience here. Now, of course, it's on the live stream. Yeah, is it like, what is that? So essentially, I'm going to do a live stream from Fort Mac on April the 1st with Chris Scott, Alberta Pro Dowd, a whole bunch of other people. If you follow me on my socials, you're going to see all the information. I'm working with the technical team over there to arrange this. That's going to be fantastic. So we got people from Drayton. There's one lady from Drayton who here's in the audience. We're in Edmonton. So we have Drayton, we have Gunn, Alberta, Calgary, we have Vermilion, Ontario. We're in Ontario. Oh, I think they're going to start soon. Fort Sask, Calgary. Mitch is a rock star. Yes, 91 people watching, only 5 likes. So yeah, like and share this video, the crap out of that. Here in Edmonton, West Side. You need to go here. It's not because on the live stream people are not showing up. You have to come here on the West Side, especially here. We're from Fort Mac. That's awesome. Hold me a second. You guys ready? I think we're going to just start.
Mitch, you good to go? Mitch is good to go. Good evening. I'm Dave. Thank you for coming. I'm going to start with a little bit of housekeeping. Bathrooms are located on my left. The 2 emergency exits are here, the door you came in, and the one over here on my left as well. We do these in a respectful and informative way, right? If anybody if anybody makes any kind of a disruption, if there's any problems, we will absolutely ask you to leave. At the end of the presentation, there will be questions. There always are. Catherine will hold the microphone. We will line people up in the middle here, and you'll get to answer your question of Mitch directly. With the housekeeping out of the way, please allow me to introduce myself. I'm David Goff, your MC. I'm honored to stand before you, not only as a supporter of the project, but also as someone who's passionate about the Stay Free Alberta mission to achieve a referendum for Alberta independence and prosperity. Welcome to a presentation and discussion to help you through your knowledge, your understanding, and ultimately your decision as we head into the most important vote in Alberta's history. By this time, you've probably heard of different groups and individuals dedicated to the education and promotion of Alberta independence. Stay Free Alberta is unique. A freestanding, nonpartisan, not-for-profit organization with one single focused mission. Created last fall in response to the opportunity for a citizen-initiated petition to drive a constitutional referendum, the current SFA petition was officially issued by Elections Alberta on January 3rd. And we have until May 2nd, barring whatever happens in the courts, to gather approximately 178,000 valid signatures. That's the mission, that's it, and that's why we're here this evening. I mentioned that Stay Free Alberta is a citizen-initiated action, and tonight we have that actual citizen with us here. Mitch Sylvestre is the owner and operator of Sylvestre Sporting Goods, a well-established business in Bonnyville since 1989. He has become actively involved in political advocacy, chairs the Alberta First Pension Plan Initiative, and serves as CEO of the Alberta Prosperity Project. Mitch is an advocate for the people, known for his honesty, for his integrity, and speaking from the heart. I believe you'll find his remarks very helpful and educational. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Mitch Sylvestre.
Great job. Hello, everybody. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Wow. All right, so I have some news to share with you. I believe we will reach our goal. So just saying, not official, just saying it may happen. All right, do you agree that the province of Alberta should cease to be a part of Canada to become an independent state? Yes or no? How many people in the room have not been to a political meeting or a Stay Free event before? Oh, that's awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And before I get going, I have to wish happy birthday to a regional leader. Happy birthday, Jocelyn. And I would like to thank all of the volunteers for all the work you've been doing, and every single canvasser in the room, and everybody that's had a conversation with somebody about Alberta independence, because that's what it's going to take. All right, away we go. All right, I have some bad news for you. The bad news is we've always been a colony. That has not changed. That continues to this day. And that, basically, is the problem. We desire, and every Canadian desires, that the great trade of the prairies shall go to enrich our own people in the East, to build up factories and the workshops of Eastern Canada, and contribute in every way to its prosperity. And that has never changed. Ever changed. And therein lies the issue. Our partners, we're in a business relationship here. Confederation should be a business relationship that makes every partner better off than it would be if it was doing business on its own. I'm in 2 buying groups in my actual business, and let me put this in perspective. I'm a small sporting goods shop in Bonnyville, but because of the fact that I belong to a particular buying group, we can buy our product as well or better than Cabela's, because there's 450 stores just like me in this buying group. And what does that do? That allows me to sell at very competitive prices and, most importantly, make margin. If I had to do that by myself, I could not do that. So Confederation should be the same kind of arrangement. However, we have a problem. The people in our buying group would say that they don't need us. Screw the West, we'll take the rest. How does that work? How does that work when you're in a business arrangement with a group of people and they literally tell you that they don't value you? And then they show you. Mark Lalonde, the Minister of Finance and author of the National Energy Program, in a recorded response said this: we could not let Alberta become the center of economic power in Canada. And I want to know why not. Why could they not let Alberta become the center of economic power in Canada if we're part of a buying group and we're buying and we're creating wealth for the whole country, and including and especially our people? So why could they not let that go on, and why could they not let us prosper? What would be the downside to letting Alberta prosper? And Ottawa could stay the capital, it could stay where it is, and I'm sure it would have. So why would they not let Alberta prosper?
Taxing us. I mentioned that at the beginning of the evening, that we have our program costs are 70% of all tax dollars. We only collect 40%. Ottawa collects 60%, and then they use political means to transfer it. Alberta, year after year, has $20 to $25 billion that is siphoned out of our system to go to Ottawa so that it can be spent mostly in Quebec, but also in other places that vote Liberal. We have been watching this for years. $600 billion in the last 40 or 50 years that have been taken out of this province. You don't think we might be able to do a little bit more on social spending if those $20 to $25 billion stayed here? You don't think we'd be able to cut taxes a bit if those $20 to $25 billion stayed here? It is $5,000 per Albertan that every single year gets transferred out of this province for political reasons so that the Liberals can continue to spend it places that vote Liberal. That is the said in the kind of.
All right, so what she's saying there at the end is so they can continue to spend it in places that vote Liberal. So they're buying votes with our money. The $20 to $25 billion is the direct transfer payments. That does not include the taxes that we're going to go into after. That number comes to $47 billion. Okay? All right, so if you have an unhappy partner in your buying group, say that's Alberta, who generates $20 to $25 billion net revenue to you, up to $47 billion net revenue to you, would you not try to make that partner happier, considering that they're a big part of your business? It would be a no-brainer for me. If I had somebody that was making me gobs of money, I would absolutely cater to that person, would you not? All right, so here's what happens. So Mr. Carney announced Ottawa's major projects. This was after he got elected. And I actually had a conversation with the Premier. I said, in Bonnyville, I said, ma'am, how long are we going to allow the Liberals to continue down this path and not give Alberta anything? She said 6 months. That would have been end of October. So Mr. Carney, after, and I've got to admit, and everybody in the room that's paying attention, understood that our Premier is trying really hard to make things work with them. So what does he do? 4 major projects in BC, 1 in Saskatchewan, 1 in Manitoba, 3 in Ontario, 2 in Quebec, 1 in New Brunswick. He went right by Alberta and didn't put a major project there. Why would you do that? I mean, we could use a pipeline, right? We could use LNG facilities. He could make a major project there. Why would he not do that? Why would he consciously put 4 in BC and none in Alberta? Just to try to make Albertans angrier? Like, honestly, think about it for a minute. Like, why would he not at least put 1 in Alberta? Just saying. It makes me wonder, honest to God, if they're not trying to push us out of here. All of this just makes me wonder if they're not consciously trying to get us to move out of Canada and then they can blame us for it. Other bills that harm Alberta. Bill C-69, they're blocking pipelines, so we just discussed that. They could have built the pipeline there, and I'll show you where the money could have come from. There's a tanker ban in the west only. Eastern Canada brings in oil from other countries every day. They block oil and gas investment. We just saw CNRL pull out of an $8.1 billion project last week. $8.1 billion. And when we win in court on the carbon tax, the Supreme Court says, no, we're not going to honor that decision. We lose $47 billion net to Ottawa every year. That's $40,000 per Alberta household. So I want you to unpack this. That's a free house for everyone that owns a house in the room. $40,000 a year per house is $3,000 plus a month. That covers everybody in the room's mortgage payment. And that's what we send to them every year, per household. That's what it's costing you, personally. That's what could stay here. In the West, we have 104 MPs. The East has 239 MPs. Understand this, Confederation is working exactly the way they want it to work. It's rigged in their favor. Alberta has a population of, per MP, it's 125,000 people in Alberta as compared to 38,000 in Western Canada. The West has 24 senators, the East has 81. There's 2 justices in the West and there's 7 in the East. So why is that equalization payments? That Danielle's $25 billion, that's where it goes, right there. And Quebec gets $13.3 billion a year. Have you ever been to Quebec? Well, I have, lots. I used to do buying shows in Montreal. And Quebec's not a have-not province. Quebec is a busy place. Quebec is not even developing its natural gas industry because they don't have to. But they're a have-not province. How does that work? Because by some magic formula, they don't get to put their Hydro-Quebec into their balance sheet. And so they become a have-not province. And we pay them $13.3 billion a year, every single year. This is taxpayer per dollar, per province. Per taxpayer is what we give them. $5,800 in Manitoba, $2,800 in Quebec, $6,500 in New Brunswick, $5,800 in Nova Scotia, $6,100 in PEI. That's per taxpayer. That's 20% of the tax base in some of these provinces comes from here. So, the reason that that's important is this. If you want to open the Constitution, you need 7 out of 10 provinces with 50% of the population to agree. So, you think we could get 7 out of there to agree to end equalization? Never going to happen. That's the problem. Our Premier knows that. So they'll never open the Constitution. They've tried twice. Charlottetown and Meech Lake. It's never happened. It's never going to happen. The reason it's not going to happen is because they don't want to give up what they got coming. We need the support in the House of Commons and the Senate. So we understand back here that there's 81 Eastern senators and 24 from the West. So what do you think those Eastern senators are going to do when it comes time to renegotiate the money? Not going to happen, because they would not go back into power. And guess what? Quebec never signed the Constitution, but they get a veto. How does that work? So our Constitution, according to its own rules, is not ratified, because it had to be signed by every province in the country, but Quebec never signed it. But yet they have a veto. And if you get all that organized, the Supreme Court you have to get approval by the Supreme Court. All right, Canada pension. Let's talk about this. As a Canadian citizen, you will get your pension no matter where you live. Okay, that's the deal. I did 100 town halls on pension, and they were more contentious than the ones on independence. I'm going to tell you why. All the old guys will say, hey, hands off our pension. Just remember I said that. We're going to remember in about 4 minutes that I said that. All right, so here's what happens. Who overpays? Are you noticing who's overpaying here? That big red line on the left is Alberta's overpayment. Okay, our workers overpay in just about every program in Canada. Well, every one that we're participating in. We're $2 billion a year in EI as well. Okay? So, our workers pay 9 to CPP, and our seniors collect 6. There's a $3 billion overage there, which according to the CPP Act, goes into a fund for Alberta seniors. Okay, so that fund belongs to you. This has been going on since the 60s. Jason Kenney commissioned a report, the LifeWorks report, that said that overcontribution plus interest, Alberta seniors are owed $400 billion now. $400 billion. According to the CPP Act, they say they're getting 9% interest. Let's round it off to 10 just so I can do the numbers easier. So that would be $40 billion a year in interest on that money that belongs to Alberta seniors. That money is not supposed to be spent on anything else. Understand that. That's your money. Government is not supposed to be investing it or putting its hands in there to make itself richer. That's in there as well. So, we have $40 billion plus $9 billion that our workers contribute, and we have $6 billion in expenses annually. So why is that pension fund not called back? Why has our Premier not called this back? She could call it back tomorrow. It makes no sense to me. Like, right? So we could give you, honestly, if that asset was here in Alberta, we could actually give you a 6-fold increase in pension. 6 times what you're making now and not even touch the principal. And I bet you a lot of you could use it. So this is what I'm saying to you. The money doesn't make sense. And guess what? Hands off our pension. Do you see that? Carney gave $100 billion to an Indian project in India. $100 billion. So just let's play devil's advocate and say we're partners with these guys that are running our country. They could have built a $32 billion pipeline with pension money that would have generated $25 billion a year for Alberta. How much of that do you think we'll ever see again? And I'm going to ask you another question. Do you realize that half of that pension fund in its entirety is Alberta's money? And the half of that is from Alberta? And yet they're investing it somewhere else instead of investing it here? That could create jobs, could make us richer, could make work for all of our people for a long time. And I'll come back to this in a minute. When I became Premier, I thought I could fix everything in 6 or 7 months, but everything's broken. That means it's too corrupt to fix. That's the problem. Alberta, the richest piece of real estate in the world, next to Saskatchewan, which is equally as rich. Imagine that. Both of us unhappy. The Saskatchewan Prosperity Project is on the path that we're on as well. So what I'm saying and sharing to you is this. Are we naive enough to believe that we could sit on top of trillions and trillions of dollars worth of assets and that nobody else in the world wants it? Do we believe that just because we're born here, all of this natural wealth should stay ours without ever being contested? Do we not understand that there's nowhere in the world that has what we have here? The whole in its entirety. We're absolutely unique. This is absolutely the most valuable piece of real estate in the world. And we'll get to that, we'll break it down a little bit later. But my point is this. China doesn't have what we have. Europe doesn't have what we have. Africa certainly doesn't have what we have. Japan does not have what we have. Just break it down. Even the Americans, as much as they have 10 times our population, they don't have what we have either. Somebody wants this. And they're coming for it right now. And that's why everything doesn't make sense. That's what's happening. Now, we just have to understand that we have a legal path to try and help ourselves here, but that is what's going on. And the last 10 years of Liberal government are going to show that to you. An audit of $187 billion worth of Liberal infrastructure spending finds 20,000 missing projects, which means they were paid for but not built. Now that sounds like fantasy until you hear this. We found, this is a report from the Auditor General of Canada to Parliament in 2025. They say, we found that in 54% of contracts examined, federal organizations had evidence to show that all services and deliverables were received. However, in 46% of contracts examined, we found that federal organizations had little to no evidence to support that deliverables were received. Half. That's half. What's half of that? That's $93 billion. And nobody went to jail. Was that a big deal in the media? Nobody knew about it. What's going on? And that's a report from the Auditor General of Canada. It says right there. Mr. Guilbeault took $254 million. Mr. Trudeau took $400 million in his green slush fund. ArriveCan, $75 million. We scandal, hundreds of millions of dollars. And we took ArriveCan to court and won. So what did the judge do? He sealed it for 75 years. Our politicians are not above the law. The laws are there to prosecute them. They're not above the law. Who in the room believes that we elected kings and that they should be above the law? But I want to ask you one more question, because I ask it every night and I'm a little late with it. Who, before they came into the room, knew that the Liberals were stealing money from us? Hands up. So now look around. I get this every night. Everybody knows it's corrupt. So now we have to do something about it, or we have to accept that they're corrupt. And then could you imagine? Imagine if we don't get this to the end and we lose this vote, and I have a hard time imagining that. But imagine the consequences of that now that they know that we understand that they're doing all this and we don't care. Because that's basically what we're saying. Mr. Trudeau spent $11 billion on overseas gender programs. Does anybody believe that? Now, how do you do that, first of all, right? Nothing wrong with gender programs, just $11 billion worth of gender programs is a problem. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is money laundering. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm guessing, so let's just not say I'm sure, but I don't think it's a very big stretch to believe that if you went somewhere and said, I'll give you $1 billion for gender programs, give me $900 million back, that would probably work out, right? $100 million free dollars and nobody's breaking the law. But anyways, here's the bad news. We run deficit budgets every year. That's borrowed money. That's borrowed money. You're paying interest on that. How much interest do we pay in this country? $1 billion a week. Foreign interference is the greatest strategic threat facing Canada. Canada's national security. Foreign interference is a problem, except apparently if it's in elections. Because Mr. Trudeau must reveal which 11 federal candidates China reportedly aided. And then the headline says, because Canada deserves it. Did he do that? Do you remember what he said? Because I do. He said it didn't affect the results, so we didn't have to look into it. So my question to you is, how did he know beforehand? Unless he knew what the results were going to be. That's what it sounds like to me. So he couldn't find anybody, so we found another, let's talk about this. I'm going to move those slides in order because it threw me off. $500 million to cross the floor is what that lady in the territories got. A $500 million house building project for her and her husband's company, and she crossed the floor. Ooh. And Like, come on. We know that. So, what's going on? All right, Marion G., one of those 11. She had $130 million in a federal subsidy program that she had to promote business startups. Never happened. She's a cabinet minister. She never went to jail. We're around $1 billion worth of stuff that we found that's clearly missing, clearly out there, and apparently they don't care. We had 120,000 mail-in ballots went uncounted in the last election. So let's tie those two things together. Did anybody pay attention to those two RCMPs that resigned today because of the fact that they said their elections within the RCMP were rigged? I'll have a slide on it tomorrow. You don't get to see it today. But my question is, and the point of it is, if they're rigging their elections, so why can't we put these politicians in jail? Because they're all on the same team. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. The RCMP are aware of 4,000 organized crime groups operating within Canada. That's groups. That's groups. That's not people. That's groups. The question was about the fentanyl charge. Do you know what I learned this week? I got to tell you something. This freaked me out. Just understand this. What do you think it costs to buy enough drugs to get high in downtown Edmonton? What do you think the cost of one hit is? You're off. It's $3. $3. So what is that telling you? Well, I had a meeting with Aboriginal people last week, and this lady, sharp as can be, Aboriginal lady, said to me, do you have any idea what it costs for those people? So they break in the windows and they grab the $10 out of your, and leave hundreds of dollars in the car. But that $10 is going to get them high for 3 days. They're trying to kill them. There's no other way to put it. It's absolutely scandalous in my mind that that's going on. Okay, let's go back to 4,000 organized crime groups, 350 per province. And look, crime has risen. This is Statistics Canada. This is what happened to the crime in Canada in the last 10 years. And here, meth lab, fentanyl lab in Fox Creek, 7 tons of chemical there. 7 tons. How does it get here? Through the port of Prince Rupert and the port of Vancouver, because they only inspect 1% of the cargo. Do you know why we have organized criminals in Canada? Because we have no racketeering and money laundering laws. And I'm going to ask you a question. Why don't we? Why don't we have money laundering and racketeering laws here that are like everywhere else in the world? And the TD just paid a $3.5 billion fine for money laundering. And here we go. You can buy anything on the streets of Vancouver. They have a truck going down downtown Vancouver. You can buy any single thing that you want to buy under safe supply. Anything. And I mean anything. And that's promoted by government. The same ones that are only inspecting 1% of cargo. And violent crime in Canada from 2002 to 2023, the Conservatives get in power, it starts there, comes down here, and the Liberals get back in power, and there it goes. Start that one, Max. I'll start it again. You ready?
I think the biggest security threat to Canada is China. We're heartened by the leadership of President Xi Jinping and the speed with which our relationship has progressed in recent months. And I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
Okay, so what is that? I'm going to tell you what he says it is, but I'm going to tell you, how do you go from 8 months before saying they're our biggest enemy, And then 8 months later, you're in Beijing making a deal with them, signing MOUs so their police can talk to our police. And so they can actually bring military in to our military, which is there. She's talking about these guys are going to be 15,000 is what I hear, and they're going to let them fly our jets. Our new ones. They should just let them fly the F-18. That would be all right. But here, this is what Mr. Carney, from his book, says the New World Order, what it should look like. A social credit system, that's on page 272. Freedom will be redefined. Redefined. That means taken away in real English. The government will control every part of your life. That's on page 122. You'll own nothing, page 234. Business will serve politics and not the other way around, like it should be. Your money will be tracked. Do you know how hard it is to get people to sign anything because of that? Because of what happened in the trucker convoy? People are terrified. And why aren't they? They should be. Markets will be morally correct. That means that the Green New Deal is going to control everything, even though that may or may not be true. Experts will replace democracy. Did you see that? We will replace democracy. I think that sums it right up. Institutions must serve the World Economic Forum, and financial decisions will be judged by climate policies. That's Mr. Carney's own book, his own words. All right, so this didn't start yesterday. This didn't start 7 months ago. They've had us on this path for 10 or 15, 20 years. It started with Pierre Elliott Trudeau, actually, is where it started. And if you want to go back and do this, this is an hour-long presentation. I haven't got time to get into all of it. But if you have a chance to go back to even the FLQ crisis, it's very interesting reading. I think you should actually have a look at it. And Mr. Trudeau, with some of the policies that he put in the Canadian Constitution, is ruling us from the grave. And the biggest one I want you to understand is he gives the judiciary power, the setting precedent power, so they're basically making the rules and not our elected officials. All right, so this is how this starts. This is our Prime Minister at the time, and he says about you that you have no core identity. There's no mainstream here in Canada. And consequently, that makes us the first post-national state, New World Order. Post-national, no nation, post-after nation, no borders. If you're a nation, you have defined borders. And what do borders do for you? The same thing that walls in your house do for you. They keep you safe at night. They isolate you from bad things and weather and bad people. And if you don't have them, and if you're blessed to be like me and have gone camping with an airplane 200 miles north of a phone, you understand how important it is to stay warm and stay safe. Chief Justice says the existence of Canada's borders is discrimination. This was about something to do with, he says low-cost public daycare must be given to everybody. But our Chief Justice wants it to go further. So no borders means that people that from all over the world can come here, participate in our social programs, and not be citizens. And if you're a temporary foreign worker, that's a different world. But what I'm saying to you is this, because you come here on a deal, and part of that deal is all of that. So here's step one to where all the problem starts. In 1954, there was a statute in the Criminal Code of Canada that said it was illegal for media to lie to the public. In 1954, it was illegal for media to lie to the public. However, in 2019, for some reason, they passed C-39 to change that, to make it legal for them to lie to the public. So my question is, why do they want to lie to you? And what do they call it when government media lies to you? Propaganda. That's exactly what it is. So how does it work that we're living in a country now, and where was propaganda limited to back in the history books? It's always been to bad people. Never in the history of the world has government been allowed to lie to you or censor you, and it was a good thing. Step 2. Now let's qualify this. I'm not mad at the immigrants. They came here for the Canada that I grew up in. I grew up in the golden age of Canada. I grew up in the Canada that I could worship who I wanted. I could say what I liked. I didn't have to worry about government coming to my door and knocking my door down. I didn't have to worry about them finding me for something I said. And if I wanted to work really hard, which I did, you could earn a good living for yourself and build something for your family that you could actually transfer to them after you were done. That's what I want back. That is why I'm doing this. That is why I want that back. So now here, let's go here. The very concept of a nation founded by European settlers is offensive to me. Old stock white Canadians are an unpleasant relic and quite frankly replaceable, and we will replace them. Somebody called me on that. I said, well, you know what, if he didn't say it, let's check out his actions, because I believe he said it, and it was in 2015. 15 million immigrants into Canada since 2015. 1.94 million temporary residents here last year. And here's a quote from Peter Sutherland of the United Nations that tells us what they're doing. We must use, from the United Nations, understand that, we must use migration to turn the English people into a minority in England. This will allow us to undermine the identity of the native English and import a new majority that will end the very idea of England. This is critical for globalism to take hold of England. And England is in a way worse shape than we're in. Just FYI. So, there's the paper from the United Nations, Replacement Migration, 177 pages. Top 10 fastest growing cities in North America. 7 of them are Canadian, 8 of them are Canadian. The average growth from 2000 to 2024 in all those countries above is 5%. Canada, 35% in the same time. How is that sustainable? If you're bringing in 2 million people a year, you would have to build a new Edmonton to service that. Like, where do you put 2 million people? Like, it wouldn't be like this is the first year, this is year 10. So we're already full, right? And then we keep bringing them in. And I'm not mad at them, again. Just on that note, I was doing a town hall, very similar to this, in a town in southern Alberta. And they had booked me in a hotel, but they didn't tell me. This is honest to God true. And I said, oh, well, and there was multiple hotels in town. So I went into this hotel and I said, hey, do you have a reservation for Mitch Sylvestre? And he said, yeah, I do. So first hotel. So just so you know how silly and lucky that was. But anyways, the guy was an East Indian guy behind the counter. And he said, how come you're wearing a suit and tie? I said, well, I just did a presentation on an independent Alberta. He says, I'm going to tell you a story. I sold everything I had to raise the $30,000 to come here. They told me this would be I would get this. They told me this was it. It was all not true. And then when I got here, I had to raise another $10,000 to get some kind of a job. And my friend who came with me sold everything he had, and he came here too, and then 4 months ago he lost his job. And he killed himself because he couldn't go back home, because he had no money to go back home. He had nothing to go back home to. So that's a really bad story. But the whole thing is, it puts it into perspective of what's going on. Who are these people that are bringing these people here and lying to them? Is the point of that story. Who is it? Who's doing all of that? And the Indian High Commissioner suggested Canada should increase its Indian population by 60 million. I'm not mad at the Indians. But there's a number out there that the World Economic Forum floats. Canada should have 100 million people, so 45 plus 60 is 100 million. So if that happens, if they bring 60 million people here, will they change our politics? Just saying. That's the plan. And they always tell you what the plan is, if you listen carefully. All right, next step. They're trying to hollow out the middle class, make you poorer. We have 33 taxes, the highest in the world. We pay more in taxes than we do for housing, clothing, and food combined. We pay 43 to 53% in tax. And there they are. And they're trying to tax your paid-for house now. And I saw something in media the other day that said that 85% of seniors are in favor of allowing the federal government to tax their paid-for house. What do you think? You think that's true? You work your whole life to pay for the house, and they're going to charge you $900 a month tax on it because it's paid for, and you're going to be okay with that? Propaganda. All right. So they're taxing you, they're trying to replace you, and they're lying to you. That's where we're at right now. Inflation. They're trying to devalue what you have. They understand this. Most of us don't understand it because we don't understand that kind of money. If you double the money supply in a country, you have the value of it. And there's a very clear example from my own store. If you if you had $60 in 2015, you could buy 2 boxes of Remington Corlock 180 grain 30-06 bullets. 4 years later, that same box of bullets costs $62. Identical. Nothing's changed. And that's legitimately the truth. And we saw it on everything. I could go one thing after another thing after another thing. The price of product has definitely doubled. And if you go to the grocery store, you all know that. And so they're doubling the money supply, they're borrowing money, and we're paying interest on it. And if you were in business, you would think that you would have to produce and earn more to pay that plus the interest so that you could, you borrow money so that you could make money. But what do? They put a cap on production. So you can't earn more, right? They don't increase Alberta production, even though they're borrowing all this money, and they're having the value of what you have, so they're not allowing us to succeed. And what happens? You have a production cap. It's a production on Canadian prosperity. Why is it that our government does not want us to be better and better off? That $33 billion that he pumps into bureaucracy could have built a pipeline that would have generated $25 billion a year. How many jobs is that? Let's break it down. 33,000 million. Right there. So billions, 1,000 million. So let's say it's $100,000 per job. That's how many? $100,000 per job, 1,000. So 100 jobs times 33. And what do they produce? They get dependent on government. Ups our costs, lowers our yield. Exactly opposite. How about this? Quebec imports 1 million barrels of oil a day from Saudi, Russia, Qatar, South America, everywhere but here. Now, in our buying group, I would suggest, or in my family, I would suggest that I would be very happy if my kids bought their sporting goods from me. If they didn't buy their sporting goods from me, I would hang the one upside down. Because why would they not want to make us better off, even though I give them everything at below cost? But the whole thing is this. Why, when the government of Alberta has unlimited amount of oil, and we have a 1 million barrel of oil a day customer in our own country, are they not buying that from us at the same price? I don't get it. I literally don't get it. And yet, those tankers can come down the St. Lawrence or down to New Brunswick, wherever that refinery is, but you can't have those same boats on the West Coast to ship our oil out to somewhere where we could get more money for it. I don't get it. Why isn't China concerned about climate change? Who pays for that? The carbon tax has cost us over 5 years, 11 billions of dollars, reducing emissions by 11.9 gigatons. China produces 11.9 gigatons of CO2 every day and a half, right? And they get their coal from here. So they ship all this coal from just inside BC and southern Alberta there, and you can see train loads of it going straight down to the only port in North America that ships coal, which is Vancouver. And guess what? China doesn't pay carbon tax. And I bet you that CO2 doesn't sit on top of China. I bet you it blows around. And we here have 600 billion trees in the boreal forest, plus the grasslands, plus we're a carbon sink here. We suck up way more carbon than we produce. So what I'm saying to you is, why are they shutting our industry down based on that? Well, the logic is they don't want us to have the industry. And if that's not bad enough, Mr. Carney just imported liquid natural gas from Australia to Quebec. 25,000 kilometers. Now, if that's not a poke in the eye to Alberta, I don't know what is. Like, seriously. Like, how, that's insulting.
Elbows up.
Yeah, of course. Who owns the LNG company in Australia? Brookfield. And that is jailable. That's a conflict of interest. Cannot
Elbows
happen.
up.
How much diesel do you think that boat burned? 100,000 barrels of oil in that puppy, or liquid natural gas, in 25,000 kilometers back and forth. Like, right? And nobody pays carbon tax but us. Just understand that. China doesn't pay it, US doesn't pay it, Russia doesn't pay it, none of the Arab states pay it, Venezuela doesn't pay it. Norway, they have a $1.95 trillion US oil fund. And we're 100 billion in debt. We produce 5 million barrels of oil a day. They produce 2. So they have $2 trillion, and we're $100 billion in the hole. They have made, because they're a free and independent country, they're able to negotiate their own deal, which is way better than ours, apparently. There's an old saying in retail. I've got some good news. I sold $1 million worth of product. Bad news is I never made any money. It doesn't matter how much you sell if you're not making any money. The government of Alberta, as a country, could decide who we're going to sell that oil to and for how much and where it comes from. All right. Let this sink in. Just understand. Think big here. I see a vision for Alberta that is very much like this. I have always seen it. I totally understand that this is more than possible. That's Saudi Arabia on the right. They have a monarchy. We're apparently democratic. But look at the difference in the systems. Same number of people. We export oil, forestry, coal, hydroelectric, natural gas, fisheries, diamonds, copper, nickel, iron ore, aluminum, and silver. Okay? And that doesn't include anything agricultural. They export 3 things: oil, oil byproducts, and silica. We have a $2.1 trillion national debt. They have a $260 billion national debt. They pay no personal income tax. We pay 40%. They pay no sales tax. We pay 13%. They get a check from the government every month. And their health care is free, just like ours. So, in the world, in the whole world, Canada is First in uranium, first in potash, second in nickel, third in oil, fifth in gold, and first in fresh water in the whole world. We're first on 1, 2 things, second on one, and third and fifth in the others, and first in fresh water, which apparently is going to be a real big deal moving forward. Because they're even trying to pass laws saying that you can't own the water on your land now if you pay close attention. So, how are we broke? How are we $2.1 trillion in debt? Because it's all going somewhere else. Is exactly how I started this whole presentation. We're a colony. None of that money stays here for us. %8 of our trade is with the Americans, go straight south. We're landlocked. Do you know how long it would take us to landlock BC? 10 minutes. How would we do that? 70% of the product that comes into Port of Prince Rupert and Port of Vancouver goes right through Alberta in a train. So no pipelines, no train traffic. But my question to you is, why isn't that already happening? Why are they shutting us out? All right, I'm going to go into a litany of really bad laws, and they're passing them now. It's at warp speed. What's going on right now in Parliament in Canada is unbelievable. C-293 says, in the case of a pandemic, which they will declare, they can come to your farm, seize your land and your herd. Okay? That's part of you will own nothing. And they slaughtered those 320 ostriches. CFIA did that just to flex their muscles because it makes no sense any other way. Wiretapping is now legal. They can go get all of your private information anywhere. There is no talk. You're not going to get informed about any of it. So they'll be listening to every conversation you have legally. They used to have to go to a judge for that. They don't have to do that anymore. That's easier, right? How do you feel about that? Digital ID is coming here. C8 says that they can freeze the internet on you without telling you how, without due process, and never have to explain it to you. This is a beauty. This is a literal beauty. Here we are, we have cabinet ministers that are going to be responsible for their portfolios, and they can determine without conversation, without anything in Parliament, where they're going to spend their money. And they can ignore, get this, the Conflict of Interest Act, the Environmental Protection Act, the lobbying rules, the labor standards, the privacy laws, and anything a minister administers. So how bribable does that make them? Like the first one, right up there, top left, conflict of interest. They don't have to do that or worry about that anymore. Right? Do you think because Mr. Carney has 103 ethics violations and they're all jailable, that he's trying to protect himself? Just asking. Every single time that he makes a business deal that benefits him directly or his company directly, that is illegal. That has always been illegal in this country. It continues to be illegal, and he should be resigned. He should have to resign for the first one. And this slide is months old. Since Carney's been prime minister, this is also months old. 42 contracts have been awarded, all to Brookfield. All to Brookfield. C9 passed 3 days ago. Does anybody know what C9 is? Hate law. The Bible is now hateful. And a crime. All right, this is a very dangerous bill. It uses the concept of naming a group. Who names the group? The Privy Council, which is bureaucrats, unelected officials. They have the liberty of naming this group. A political entity, the Order in Council, names a group, which is the Privy Council, a hate group. From there, the members of the group are all guilty by virtue of possession of the symbol. where Mark Miller, a liberal, in debate, names the Bible and Torah as hate and states there's no legitimate religious defense. So all of the religious defense rules that were in there since the 70s have been taken out now. We're supposed to rely on the liberals to do the right thing. And you know how that's been working out. And because the group is Christians, Torah Jews, and because he said other religious texts, the Quran. This enables the government to target the religious individuals as part of the group. When in history has that ever happened? Do you know that, I'm going to digress a little bit here, but I read a lot of books. And I've always wondered how, like, really smart people get trapped into this kind of stuff and then they can't get out. Like, if you go back to Nazi Germany, that persecution of the Jews was like 6 or 7 years long before they actually got to the real bad stuff. And the other part of it is that it wasn't because they weren't wealthy and couldn't get out, because actually what the Germans stole from the Jews that they euthanized paid for 40% of their war effort. 40% of the whole war, which is paying for millions of soldiers, all the gas, all the bullets, all the stuff that all the airplanes that they had to build and the boats, were 40% paid for by the Jews. So they could afford to go, but why did they stay? Why did they not rise up against that? Just saying. This enables the government to target the religious individuals as part of the group. This is exceptionally evil, broad, and typical only of communist countries. All right, the forfeiture clause is the problem. The forfeiture clause is the punishment. This was debated. They asked them to make it more specific. They refused. And then they took it after the second reading, no more debate, and voted on it. So the forfeiture clause stays put. So that's not an accident. The forfeiture clause says this. It's an unlimited forfeiture clause. Is it your house, your bank account? Is it your life? You are the person by means of which the offense was committed. So the author says this is the most problematic forfeiture clause ever written. And what next happens is this, and this is word for word. May, in addition to any other punishment imposed, be ordered by the presiding provincial court judge or judge to be forfeited to His Majesty in right of the province in which that person is convicted for disposal. Does that mean dispose you out of the room? Dispose you out of the province, out of the city? Or does that mean disposal? But why would we want to take a chance on what that means? Historically, they call this, what do they call this? The permission to create atrocities is what this is called. Guns. Okay. Urban and rural, there's a little disconnect here in the guns. Urban people think that people shouldn't have guns. Rural people basically grew up with them. I remember going to high school, no lie, that's how old I am, just telling you, where guys had guns in the back windows of their trucks. I've been in the gun business for 48 years, and I was selling guns when there was no license. And I remember when they brought these licenses in, they said, oh, this is the first step to confiscation. And you know what I said? Never happened here. No kidding. So there's a red flag law there that says that your neighbor can tattle on you, and they'll never tell you who that neighbor is because they don't have to, and they can come to your house without a warrant and seize all your guns. And then you have to prove that you're innocent to get them back. So where did that just happen? In BC, where the mom said, hey, come and get these guns out of the house. Or somebody told them. So the RCMP went to the house and got the guns. And the mom went back there and she said, no, you should be allowed to have these guns. She got them back. And then that 28 people were killed, or however many people were killed there. But they should have kept them, right? Should have paid more attention to what was going on. So there's the other side to this. But here's what I'm saying to you. You can't just go to somebody's house without a warrant and kick the door in for any reason in our country until now. That's the problem. And guns is, again, this private property. And I referred to the fact that judges are setting precedent. So if they can come to your house and seize your legally acquired private property, no matter what it is, they're setting precedent for coming to your house to seize anything else. And that's where the problem is. 9213, Constitution of Canada says this: the provinces are responsible for civil rights and property rights. This is private property. Our government does not have to put up with this. They can contest this in court. And our premier is going to have a problem. In October, the amnesty is over, and people that haven't turned in their guns are going to become criminals on November 1. If they become a criminal, then they will lose their PAL. They will lose their ability to have any guns. And if they lose their PAL and they're criminals, they can't go anywhere, so they'll lose their passport. So these guys that have these guns are in a bad spot. They give them up, which is against everything they want to do because they're legally acquired and they're legal people, or they wouldn't have a PAL in the first place. Understand this: you can't have a PAL if you're a criminal. You have to have a very clean record to have a PAL. So they're taking the guns away from the good guys, and I'll bet you the bad guys aren't turning theirs in. So a well-regulated militia is necessary to the security of a free state. That's the Second Amendment in the US. After the war, trained people that know how to use their guns to protect themselves is necessary for the security of a free state. I think in a free and independent Alberta, we should train our kids, like they do in Switzerland, to become soldiers. And then, like they do in Switzerland, send them home with their fully automatic weapon. Every house in Switzerland has 1 or 2 automatic weapons, fully automatic weapons, with people that know how to use them. Did the Germans attack the Swiss? Just FYI. They've never done either war. Okay. Real GDP, that's gross, that's growth. We grew 1.4% in 10 years. How do you do that here with everything we have? You have to try. There's no other way. It's impossible. Mr. Carney took the keys from Mr. Trudeau because he couldn't account for his $400 million. Add that to the billion that we already found, right? There's another $400 million right there. And the minute that Carney took over, the big money guys that know what's going on took all their money and left. $86 billion have left Canada in the first 7 months of Carney's rule. But guess what? Mr. Carney's money was in that group. 95% of his investments are in the USA. Everything left Canada. What's that telling you? Why would he take all of his money out of here? Because I'll tell you what he's doing. He's trying to break the country. And he's showing us he's doing it step by step by step. Canada pledges $4.3 billion to the Ukraine at the G7. 2 days later, Brookfield gets a contract to rebuild the Ukraine, $4.3 billion. You can look that up. That's common knowledge. All right. Does anybody know anything about UBI? That's the final step, Universal Basic Income. In order to collect universal basic income, that's $2,000 a month, you have to sign over your right to ever own property again. That's right in the bill. So what they're doing is going to make it harder for people, so they go on UBI, and then it's the first step to owning nothing, or the last step to owning nothing. And my lovely wife said something to me the other day that never crossed my mind. She said, Mitch, do you know that there are people out there that will be happy to own nothing and be happy? And that never crossed my mind, but there are those people. All right, so corruption's our biggest problem. So what can we do about it? So we have a legal path. So this is how this works. We have lots of people. There's a few of them. Historically, I'm going to tell you a story. I have a friend in South Carolina whose ancestors owned slaves. And in the journals, and he read them, and he said to me, you know, it was very clear that they were terrified of the slaves. They were terrified of their slaves because they didn't think that if there was a slave uprising that they could handle it, because that's how many of them there were. And the same thing happened in ancient Greece, where they went in Athens, they had a meeting, and they said, hey, let's put red capes on all of our slaves. And the senator said, no, we can't do that, because they'll see how many of them there are and how few of us there are, and they'll take over. So what I'm saying to you is this. This is the same situation. And understand this, they're people. They're people just like us. Anybody saw Mark Carney skate with the Oilers understands that he's very human. That was brutal. That was so bad. I played hockey for a long time, and I'm a good skater. I wouldn't have been going out there as a 7-year-old, I promise you that. Not with those guys. But at any rate, yeah. So what we need to do is this. You need to talk to people. You need to sign people up. You get people involved, and then we're going to have to win the vote. Everybody says, oh, what if? What's going to happen after that? Well, nothing's going to happen until we get it to a vote. We're going to get it to a vote, and then we're going to spend the next 6 so that they get it. Because it's happening. I talked to the Premier's office here this week, and Carney's putting in 2 new rules. Provincial governments should not be allowed to make their own laws. And the other one is that in the case of an election, you basically can't say anything bad about the current government. Honest to God. The Nazis did that in the 30s. They didn't allow the people to talk about what's going on in government. So I'm going to be in trouble. Just saying. So we need to go out and talk to people and recruit people and get people to sign our independence referendum form. Oh my God, that was hard to do. Our independence referendum form, and they're going to take signatures at the back. Now I'm going to share something with you. We're going to have a referendum. Because our people are very committed, very hardworking, very courageous, and they're spending a lot of time doing it, and it's going to get done. And there was never any doubt in my mind. It's harder than I thought it was going to be, though, I'm not going to lie to you. But we will get it done. And we'll have the opportunity to do this. And Danielle said something today on Sean Newman. She said that if the first, it's going to be paper, well, I knew this from, this wasn't today, but paper ballots, 1 question. The first question is going to be the Citizens Initiative question. And she said today that if that is a win, they will not count the others. Because she'll have a mandate to do it all, if that's the case. All that nonsense is going to be gone, because those other questions are all redundant. There's no substance there. She could do that all on her own, except the 4 constitutional ones, which she can't open the Constitution. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's always the ball's in your court. We can't do it without you. And Solzhenitsyn said this. You can read that, I won't. But this is so true. We just have to decide that we're going to take matters into our own hands, be brave, recruit people, sign the petition, and let's take it to the next steps after this, and we can win this. Thank you very much, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mitch Sylvestre, how good is that? Couple of things before we get to our question and answer. The first one will be, Catherine, where are you? The buckets? Catherine? Okay.
So there's 2 gentlemen on this. They've got these bright yellow buckets, and if you're making a donation that's larger than $50, then we need you to go and see Michelle. She's standing back there behind the big Alberta flag, and you would have to get it. I do have a big voice. I don't think it's on. I know.
Yeah, as I introduced earlier, this is a citizen-initiated petition. It is also a citizen-funded petition. We do not have George Soros with our back. Reid Hoffman was going to give some money, but he's at Epstein Island, so we couldn't get him to come through either. So if you do have a couple of bucks, throw it in, because that's what keeps this whole thing happening. Secondly, before we hit the question and answer, which is always very popular, is everybody familiar with freedomcalendar.net? Okay, do you know Max? This is Max over here. Max does all of this AV. If Mitch is the hardest working man in show business, Max is probably the second hardest working man in show business. And he runs a thing called freedomcalendar.net, so you will be able to share this presentation with everyone you need. What's that? We got 500 more people watching this right now. Share it, okay? My question for everybody, and I say this whenever I see Mitch speak, is it is overwhelming. It is like drinking through a fire hose. It is absolutely overwhelming, and I cannot tell you how much I would love to have my liberal boomer relatives in Ontario tied to a chair to watch this presentation. And yes, I would do that myself. So, after we're done with the buckets, Catherine is going to come up here in the middle. So if somebody has a question, line up and you'll be allowed to ask Mitch a question.
Don't be shy.
Mitch, you answered every single
may be tall,
question
but I don't
tonight.
bite.
We've never not had this happen before.
All right.
Here we go.
Our first question.
Catherine, you good?
So my question is with regards to so I know the debate that's going to happen between Keith Wilson and Jason Kenney. The Edmonton one is a private event, but the Calgary one, do you know if there's going to be any live streaming or some kind of a way that people who aren't attending the event can watch the debate?
I hope so.
And Max can answer that.
Max, you have an answer there?
I'm working very hard to do it and to live stream it. Very hard, and I contact a whole bunch of people about it, but I'm going to make sure that it will be at least a live stream, the one in Calgary, the one in Edmonton, but I'm working very hard to do it.
Okay, yeah. That event is actually organized by Vince Byfield, who's here from Edmonton, and he's a CA president for the UCP, and it's kind of independent of us.
I get three main questions when I'm collecting signatures. One, CPP. Two, this is
Say
treaty.
first one?
This is CPP, your pension.
Yes.
That's the one main question. The second main question is, this is treaty land. We don't own nothing here.
That's not true. It's absolutely the opposite.
Alberta doesn't own, these are the questions. Alberta doesn't own anything.
Alberta owns it all. It's all been ceded.
And sorry, the other one, forget.
That's two.
Sorry.
And landlocked?
And I signed this petition. Who gets this information? Because I don't want my bank accounts frozen like have it to other people.
Nobody gets the information. It gets destroyed. The Elections Alberta gets it, and then they're supposed to destroy it. We won't do anything with it at our end. There he is.
Hi. I hate to be a pessimist, but
That's all go hard.
with the New World Order already owning Canada, and with all the resources that they have and being able to borrow all the money that they want to fight against Alberta's sovereignty, how do you think that playing by the rules is going to work to save Canada? Because I think we would save Canada if we could separate.
It has to be too big to rig. It has to be too big to rig. So we have to want this badly enough, and we're going to work really hard to get this message in front of all of them that are not here. And we're also going to give them a 20 to 25% increase in pay on day one by not paying federal income tax, and that, in today's economy, is going to be a big deal. And we're also promising to double old age security and OAS. So if the economy is, so let's just break it down. The social part of it is massive. the way they're making laws and they're trying to fence us in, the social part is at least as important to me as the financial part. I don't want those guys telling me what to do, who to pray to, who to do anything with. I want to do the things that I always grew up with. Good guys should be able to own guns. You should be able to go hunting if you want to go hunting. You should be able to you should be able to go to the range and shoot your guns and have fun. And if somebody happens to break into your house in the middle of the night, you should have that option, especially when you get older. So just saying. So what I'm saying to you is, if you cannot protect your own home, you cannot be free. So that's the other part of that. Yeah, you got it.
Hi, the biggest concern I have is the cost of what it's going to take to actually make this transition to an independent country.
Okay, so can I break it down for you?
Sure.
Okay, so we pay $70 billion a year provincial tax. We pay another $70 billion to Ottawa. They send us $23 billion back in healthcare and all other manner of programs. So they keep $47 billion. So that $47 billion will absolutely, if we pay for borders, if we pay for everything else, we're already paying for healthcare, right? It's coming back to us. We're going there and it's coming back, and we're paying for everything else already. So what we have to pay for is border guards. And yeah, so we're going to show between $35 to $45 billion net every year. The money will work very much in our favor. And I'm going to tell you something else. Those numbers are all from StatsCan. And when I got them to write that report, I asked them to be very conservative on those numbers. And just the revenue generated by that, it's going to cost us like $23 to $25 billion to not collect federal income tax. But we've never had that money, right? So if we give it to you, you will absolutely be able to spend it and create a major boom in our economy. There's no other way around it. So just saying. And the pensioners could use a 2 times increase in pay.
Sure. Yeah, just about currency, what would we do in that regard?
Okay, so currency, the ideal thing would be to use our oil as a backup to our own currency. That would be the ideal thing. In the interim, since we trade in US dollars, all our oil is in US dollars, 88% of our trade is in US dollars, I would suggest it would be wise to trade in US dollars.
Most the rest of Canada.
Yeah, and I mean, does anybody know anything about the differential? There's a 20%. We give the Americans 20% on our oil. It goes in a pipe in Cold Lake. By the time it gets to Chicago, they've made 20% on it. That's part of the reason why we have that difference between Norway and us, is because we're selling our oil cheaper, but the fact of the matter remains is that we're still producing 2.5 times more than them, so we should still have a large surplus there. All right, thank you. Hi.
Hi, Mitch. Mitch.
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Okay, please don't cut me off. This will be quick. I've got a bit of a setup before the questions. When considering the massive outflow of capital to Eastern Canada, there's another outflow largely not considered. The foreign ownership of Alberta's oil and gas
industry. Just slow down.
Can you just get closer to the microphone, please?
Just put the microphone closer and slow down for me.
Okay.
Okay,
I
good.
just don't want to be cut off.
No, you're not going to be cut off.
All right.
Unless you're lying.
Foreign ownership of Alberta's oil and gas industry is significant at over 70%, with the majority being American. A 2025 report found that 3/4 of the net value added in the oil and gas industry went to owners as profits, with the majority going to foreign shareholders. Yes. Approximately $60 billion was paid out to foreign owners in dividends and share repurchases between 2021 and 2024. Mm-hmm. Okay, here's the quick, you'll get the gist of the questions.
Yeah.
Could and would a Republic of Alberta buy back foreign corporate holdings, regulate future foreign ownership, or create a new to buffer against global price fluctuations, as well as retain a reasonable amount of the profits? Have Albertans been conditioned to see our collective selves as resource workers and not stewards of great wealth? Is that a matter of who controls the narrative? Are Albertans being ripped off?
Oh, they're being ripped off, 100%. And here's the thing. Let's just go back to one of my slides. This has been in my head for 25 years. We have a customer that will buy 1 million barrels of oil a day from us, that we could own the supply because we know it's a fixed customer. We don't have to go anywhere to get it. We could take the entire profit from it, produce it ourselves, and send it to them in a pipeline, and they're paying world price for substandard oil. Understand this, our oil is actually better than theirs because you can make diesel out of our oil much easier, and there's more byproducts coming out of our oil than sweet Texas crude. So in actual fact, it's upside down. They should be paying more for our oil than for theirs. But yeah, we have 1 million barrels a day that we could actually do that with. We could start from scratch as a government and actually make that happen. So if we found new customers just moving forward, we could either buy existing leases with our $27 to $50 billion a year surplus and keep all the profit for ourselves, or we could develop new projects for other countries that became new customers. And that always, like Quebec, is a real big problem for me. So that is just the way I feel. But yeah, you're 100% right. I totally understand all of that. So yeah, so the answer is yes, we want to do that as fast as we can. That goes back to my I sold $1 million but I didn't make any money thing. That's what that is. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think it has something to do with economic nationalism. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, we could do our own. So we should nationalize some of our oil industry without, I mean, you can grandfather that stuff out too. Like, over time, without, like Esso's right next door to us. Cenovus is right next door to us. I'm talking Bonnyville now. We also have CNRL, which is Canadian, which is the biggest oil company that we have in our area. But Esso's been running for years and years and years. But you could buy Esso, and I mean, just like they bought the Husky Upgrader in Lloyd, you could buy that, and Esso, you could just buy it legally, and then eventually you'd own it, and then you'd be in control of it. China owns 5% of our oil patch. 5%. PetroChina actually owns 5% of our oil patch. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Mitch.
Hi.
First of all, thank you for being one of our Alberta heroes,
Oh,
traveling this. You are definitely, the people that have been doing this, like yourself, are amazing. And again, all the people that turn out here, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree with that. Ditto that.
Thank you. Big
Not
hand
about
to
the amazing
everybody
part, but
that
about you
turned out.
guys.
And mine isn't so serious. I just want some information for myself and for other people, if you could give it to us.
Oh, I hope so.
With that injunction coming in April,
Yes.
what information can you give to me to take to the people that are
Okay,
kind of
so-
not knowing what's going on?
So my goal when I basically came out 2 weeks ago and said, hey, we have to get our signatures before the injunction comes in, because the injunction is designed to stop us from collecting signatures. If we already have more signatures than we need, then the injunction is going to be too late. So the goal is to get more signatures, before the injunction happens, and we're well on our way. So, just saying. All right. So just understand this as well. If the injunction does not stop us, then we're going to go right till May. And then at that point, we're going to try to set another goal, which we'll probably achieve, and have a double whammy, because that is going to be part of the too big to rig part. The first part is going to be to get the vote, for sure, seal it, so that we have that. And the second part is the too big to rig part. We're going to have to work hard to get all these other people to help and join us, and educate other people so that we can actually advance forward and make this as big a success as we can make it. So, according to our legal people, they think they have a very small chance of winning the Sturgeon Lake Band. Okay, they think that it's going to light a fire. We would probably win that either way, because I'll share this with you. If they shut down our ability to have a petition signed, I think that it's going to wake people up that would understand that this is not democracy anymore. And so just saying, I'll promise you we'll have the mother of all rallies. It'll be right here in Edmonton too.
Evening, sir.
Hi.
I've got a question for you. What's going to happen with ATB?
Say again?
What is going to happen with ATB and the billions that they hold?
Oh, ATB.
Yes, Alberta Treasury Branch.
Well, they could become a national bank, I guess, because it's a government bank.
Corporation, sir.
I've done business with them for years and before, and I would be happy if I didn't have to. Just saying.
The reason why I'm asking, sir, is because they hold a large amount of Alberta's money, and I know for a fact that they're not above board. So this is a huge problem, and in turn, police and RCMP are being paid by ATB. So.
So that would probably be
like
I'm not saying this from anything, I don't know this, but I'm just going to tell you from thinking about it right now. I said if you were going to have money in a bank in Alberta, that would be the safest one. No?
I don't know about that.
Oh, the credit unions would be the safer ones. Yeah, okay. I'll take that back. You're right. I'll take that back. You're right. So the credit unions would be the safest ones, the ones that are Alberta banks.
How about Christian organizations? That might work.
Well, I can't. We're going to come out with a white paper on this right after we're done this part. Okay. And it's going to explain all the banking, all of the investment money, okay, all of the pension money, all of the mortgage money, all RSP money. All that is going to be dealt with one subject at a time. So yes, and it's doable because Quebec has already written a book.
Okay. The next question that I have, sir. My son is going to be of conscription age. What is going to happen now with the world the way it is, and it looks like the United States and Canada, all of them going to be conscripting to go and fight somebody else's war?
Well, I don't want anything to do with that. If I have anything to do with that, I got 4 boys, and they're all fighting age. That's the last thing I'd want is for them to go fight a war for a bunch of international bankers. You know what I would like, honestly? I talk about Switzerland. They got the best deal. If you want our boys to fight, come here, and we'll fight. But the other thing is that we've got 3% of GDP committed for our military here. So I don't see us not having that. I think it's going to be a really big deal to protect ourselves. I really think it's going to be really important.
I believe you, sir. I really do, and I hope we can do it. The question is, in the interim, who's going to protect Alberta as this transition takes place?
Who's protecting Alberta now?
A whole lot of criminals.
Well, I know, but I get this question a lot. But here's the thing: we got less soldiers than police here in Canada. They totally dismantled our military, and they did it on purpose. We're flying 40-year-old jets. Cold Lake is like I watch them fly around every day. They still haven't replaced those jets. Harper was trying to replace those jets. So what I'm saying to you is nobody's going to protect us from that, from the Americans. If the Americans are coming, nobody's going to protect us from the Chinese except the Americans, if that's the case. And what I'm saying to you is moving forward, we're going to spend 3% of GDP on our own military so our own people can be trained in schools and do all that. Because we go back to when the Japanese were going to invade North America, and they said, why would you not invade North America? And the Japanese general said, famously, because there's a gun behind every blade of grass. And that's exactly what we want to have happen here.
Last question, sir.
Yeah.
What's going to happen with the pension funds as Harper is actually running the show right now with your pensions?
You know what? I've done 100 pension town halls. The only logical thing that makes sense to me why the Premier didn't call that back is because it's probably not there anymore. And I don't know if that's true, but that's the only logical thing that makes sense to me. Why would they not call that massive amount of money back so that we could invest it in our own industry, invest it in our own people, and give our seniors a massive raise? Why would they not call that back? So, now let's make this clear. In the free and independent Alberta, our workers pay 9. Our seniors collect 6. That 6 plus 3 is going to cover most people's pension, right? Because we pay more. So we got the first part covered, and then we'll just take an extra $4 or $5 billion from the pile that we send to Quebec, and we'll double our seniors' pension, and we will be fine without Canada Pension. But legally, you cannot not be a subject of the Crown if you're born a subject of the Crown, which is what we are. We're Canadians. So you will be a Canadian for your whole life. The federal government, because you have paid into this pension fund, will owe it to you. So if they honor their commitment and they pay you your pension, then we can double it by using what our workers give and still put $3 billion surplus in the bank for the future. All right, cool, thank you.
Just a minute. Hi, Mitch.
Hi.
Do you know what's my mission?
What's your mission?
Bringing so many people to sign-in table. You know why? I am 80 years old, and during COVID, I ended up with 5 years old daughter. Okay. I have 5 years daughter. Okay. I fight in over 4 years with government to protect pensioner because they don't have any idea which they get injury, they get disabled, and they have to live with pension and feeding other 2 people. I tell you, pension is not designed to be live on other 2 people. And I won't do something. Then tell me, for sure, I know I don't have nothing to lose. I like on a new Republic of Alberta, I want to be done something for pensioner or for people which they do. I can give you example.
Oh, me too. Of pensions that work?
60 years old man, is good shape. He find lady with baby. Now they working is 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. Now he going to pension, And what's happen if he get disabled, some car hit him? He have to live and support family with pension. But age don't give him nothing because he's over 65 years old. That's logical. Everybody knows this. And he have to go and begging to be live on pension. Have to be done for that kind of people. And also I tell you something. Parents, they taking only about education. They don't know how kids end them up if they are in retirement age. They don't have idea. I don't like to end them up like me. I am not El Pacino, 63 years old, have a Hollywood baby. I am pensioner. You understand this? And have to be done everything. That's all what I want to tell. And I want to tell also 5th of April, I going on the roof. There is my cross.
Sir, you're not speaking on the microphone.
And I will blessing Republic, Alberta Republic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Me too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why I get I also hold the lady. Why I get disabled? Simple. I went on vaccination. And that's very simple. I was good, I was running, I supported, I have pension, I supporting kids. My baby, 6 months was old baby, and I went on vaccination, and I losing balance. That's why I'm holding right now, So nobody, age don't care, nobody don't care. But I fight in 4 years with MLA everything, and nothing help.
No.
Nothing help. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry for your situation. Hello.
Ask him before you
Long live the new Republic of Alberta.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I've been here 20 years now. I immigrated here. I say immigrated from New Brunswick, right? So.
Well, welcome home.
And you know, it wasn't a bad spot then, right?
No, it was good.
It wasn't a bad spot. But I knew right from the onset that things had to change, right? Especially, and anyway, with a new republic, the soul of a republic is a constitution. Without it, you haven't got a direction to go to, right? So where are we at with that?
It's built. Done. So it's going to be a discussion paper. So done. So the only reason it's not out is because we were going to put it out right at the beginning of this, chase down for signatures, but we didn't want to detract from it. So it's going to come out before the white paper, so it's going to probably come out very shortly after the deadline in May. And understand this, it's a discussion paper. We wrote in it, we spent like 2 or 3 full days with some very bright people in the room. I was an observer. There was a lot of smart people in the room. Keith Wilson was there. Bruce Pardy was there. Dennis Modry was there. I was there as an observer, but I got to make 1 or 2 comments. Eva Chipiuk was there. Jeff Rath is going to review it. So we've got constitutional lawyers, a lot of them, people that work in the law every day. So we come up with a discussion paper with parameters and ideas that you will like. And it's going to be a republic according to the way it's set up. There's going to be a lot of direct democracy like they have in Switzerland, like we're actually doing right now. That's going to be a big part of that. Elected judges, quarterly audits, term limits, only so much that you can increase taxation up to a certain point. Everything is going to be in there. And then what's going to happen is that 2 months after we win the referendum, we're going to have a citizens committee, and the people are going to decide what's going to be in the Constitution. And then the people are going to vote on it. And in actual fact, if that happens, that we endorse the Constitution that we have and the people vote for it, that is a clear path to democracy all by itself, without a vote.
So what you're saying is, once we have a yes vote, right?
Yes.
Then we'll go to a constitutional convention.
Right.
Absolutely.
Constitutional conference is what it's called.
Okay, that's all I want to know. God bless.
Take care.
Hey, my question's about the Overton window in general.
About what?
The Overton window and shifting it.
Okay.
So, the Overton window. Okay, so the Overton window is the public opinion on something, and if something is safe to talk about or is unsafe to talk about.
Okay.
So, at the last UCP AGM, none of the leadership wanted to touch the topic of separatism with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
The Premier didn't want to speak to it. She got very nervous when Jeff Rath got up. What can we do as members of the UCP in our constituency associations and within the party do to shift the Overton window so that separatism becomes a safer topic for our leaders to talk about and promote?
So, okay, so first thing, that thing at the UCP AGM was orchestrated. We actually had planned that so that we could call a straw poll, so that we could actually show government and caucus and Danielle that the biggest part of her base is independence-minded. Okay, so that was conscious. We did that on purpose. The second part of that is that what can you do? Well, Jason Steffen called me last week, and he came out with, in support of this, in an opinion paper in the Western Standard today, and so he's going to sign a petition next week. So what I'm sharing to you is this. I'm a CA chair for the UCP. I'm very heavily involved with the UCP. I understand the rules, and that's why I got involved, so I could understand the rules. You have to put pressure on your MLA by attending meetings. Like I have open meetings for my CA board, and my MLA attends. And my MLA's had some really rough rides in that room. I'm telling you right now, like really rough rides. And so what I'm saying to you is we have 30 Freedom people on my board. And as a consequence to that, my MLA would be well served to represent us. And that's the same message that you have to share with your MLA, that they would be much better served to serve the people than to be afraid to do that. So my goal when I became a CA chair was to turn the pyramid upside down and give information from bottom up instead of always coming top down. And it's worked quite well for us in Bonnyville.
Hello, Mitch.
Hey, Max.
How you guys doing? I'd like to thank you, all the volunteers who are working very hard to make things work. And I'd like to also thank you, all the canvassers who are braving the cold weather and evading the people who don't necessarily agree with us, which is fantastic. Two questions, one from the online audience and one personally. Question one from the online audience. Where's going to be the next rally in Edmonton?
When's the next rally in Edmonton? You asking them or are you asking me?
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you when it's going to be, is if we lose this vote.
Oh, okay.
No, not this vote, the injunction.
Oh, interesting.
That's not that far down the road.
Okay, interesting. The second question is, my question is, aside from the United States recognizing Alberta, who are planning to recognize Alberta as a nation, what other countries are planning to do so?
I can't answer that. I can't even answer the fact that the United States is going to back us up.
Okay, fair enough.
But I would qualify that by looking at what's happening in the world and wonder if the Americans would want a neighbor like Alberta on their northern border. That's all I'm going to say. Go ahead.
Hi again. I just wanted to say that we always hear that this idea that the previous generation didn't stand up for us, and here we are facing obvious termination of Caucasians. Thank you. It sounds like everybody here is standing in the gap. So anybody's listening online, this is us trying to do something for constructive solutions, obvious, and outright survival of the middle class. And I'm really grateful to be here with you right now. I have one last quick question. When considering that the Chinese Communist Party promotes their huge pharmaceutical industry to supply precursors to criminals globally, who then cook methamphetamine, could a Republic of Alberta use its energy leverage in trade to force the hand of the CCP?
Well, you know what? Did you see what happened in El Salvador? Did you see what happened in El Salvador? They actually went and cleaned the streets. They cleaned the streets first. So if there's nobody there to sell it, and they're all in jail, then that's a really good first step. I'm not saying that we're going to be able to do that, but I watched them do it in live time, and I actually went door knocking in Red Deer on Saturday for the first time. And the first door we knocked on was a couple women from El Salvador. And they signed, by the way. And what they said was, I couldn't walk down the street there, and now I'd be happy to walk down the street there in the middle of the night because of the change. So the president decided that they were going to round all these people up because they know who they are, all the organized criminals. And actually, if you look online, you can see pictures of them, all tattooed up with their war tattoos and all in a line and all going to jail. So I think that would be the first step, take care of ourselves that way. And but that's not going to be my choice. I mean, I doubt that I'll be leading that part of it at that time. I'm actually hoping the Premier will stay in and make this easier for us. But you know what I found? Nothing in this process is easy. So and as far as what you said about the UCP is going to be in a very hard political position here right now. And I'm going to tell you why. Because they are going to have to deal with us at some point. And we have a lot of leverage based on, we've done 200 town halls. We talked to 100-some thousand people one-on-one, and they totally understand. And the question that I have in many, many events, and I'm going to ask you guys the question right now, If it came to a choice between Danielle Smith as Premier or a free and independent Alberta, would you choose a free and independent Alberta? Hands up. Okay, so they know that, right? They know that. And the other thing is here's the thing. We show up. We're here. You're here. And that's what's, like when I got involved with Take Back Alberta years ago, we had the first AGM we had was 1,600 people. Then we started pushing people to AGMs. Then it went to 3,400 people, then it went to 6,500 people, and last year was 4,700 people. And I had news reporters coming up to me. I was northern leader of Take Back Alberta for some of those years. In the last 2 years, I was doing what I'm doing now and driving people to the AGM at every event. Like I asked you to become canvassers, and we got 7,000 canvassers. And 2 years ago, when the Premier was up for re-election, I was driving people to the AGM to support the Premier based on the new Bill of Rights and the right to bear arms, which we never got. But however, that was a fail. Not on our part, but on their part, as far as I was concerned. So what I want you to understand is this. We are their base. They know it. They passed Bill 14 to get us here. They lowered the threshold to get us here. The ball's in our court now. There's no putting this cat back in the bag. The genie's not going back in the bottle. If we let it go back in the bottle, it's on us. And if they don't support us, then we have to do what we have to do all the way along. We have to do what's going to serve us best. So we just wait until we're clear on what that is, and then we'll have to do it. Right? Some of it's going to be hard.
Okay, Mitch, is it okay if I give you one last question here?
Okay.
Oh, somebody just snuck in
Jill?
here.
All right, two.
Can we do two?
Yeah, two's
okay,
good.
thank you.
Hi.
Just very, very quickly, hello. Thank you again very much for everything that you're doing as
thank
well. Just very quickly, I hear that none of the numbers for the petition signing are allowed to be spoken. Some people say that people, let's try and think of how I'm actually going to say this. I've heard that they have the numbers. I've heard that they don't have the numbers. I heard that no one's allowed to release numbers until May 2nd. I just wanted clarification in terms of where our numbers are. Yeah, clarification. Are we allowed to know the numbers? Are we not allowed to know the numbers? Do you know the numbers and just are not saying it?
The answer to that is yes.
Okay.
I do know the numbers. But here's my problem. I know the numbers and the committed numbers. I have a meeting every Thursday with all the provincial leaders, and I ask them for a number. I know what numbers our people are putting in, and I know where we are there. And I'm going to share with you, I'm optimistic that with all that information, that we will call a referendum. So, and the reason, and I'm going to ask you this. Just, okay, let's do a poll. I've never done this before. This is a first. All right, so if I come out on April 7th, and I say, okay, we got 210,000 signatures, we're in the clear. Would that stop everybody from working? That's the right answer. That's the right answer. That would be my only concern with that. And here's the other thing. Then, we could run for 450 or 500,000 for the next 2 or 3 weeks, because now we finally got everybody working. Like every guy's got their badges. We're knocking on doors. We're doing pop-ups all over. We've got 200-300 locations. Everywhere I go, and I'm driving around the province all the time, I see, I stop at multiple pop-ups every day and thank them. But yeah, that's going on, and I really appreciate it. So here's the thing. We will have a celebration on May 2nd here in Edmonton. We're going to bring those petitions, those signed petitions to Elections Alberta. And we're going to invite every one of you to come and take a picture and celebrate with us. And then we'll get ourselves set up for the next phase. Because every one of you that had a hard conversation, that asked a hard question, that got a signature should be there to revel in the moment and make history, for a new and independent Alberta, the way I see it. Go ahead, Dale.
Sorry, you talked about hard questions. I think I've got a couple, just two.
Just one. No, you have two. I'm teasing.
Okay, so the first one is you talked about the Ecuadorians and the fact that the two ladies.
El Salvador,
El
not
Salvador,
Ecuador.
Matt, thank you. And so obviously they were citizens.
Yes, of Alberta, yes, of
yes.
Canada.
So they had to be here about 3 or 4 years to do
12
that.
years.
Oh, they've been here 12 years. One of the things that we see in this audience is a dearth of representation of the different tribes that are in Alberta, right, in Edmonton. Yes. I think that Edmonton and Calgary, especially Edmonton, where we have absolutely no MLAs, what is the plan here? There was a question about how do we address the UCP. I've been on 3 boards. I'm a VP of Communications, and I see certainly a push against the separatism from the Edmonton region.
Actually, Dale, can I stop you?
Please.
Okay, so I told you I alluded to my provincial leaders meetings. Edmonton has led the count 2 weeks in a row. So
I think that's the kind of information.
It's possible.
But that's the kind of information that needs to be shared with the UCP, because if they don't know that Overton window thing that you're talking about, that shifts it. And one of the challenges we have is when we don't know this kind of stuff, we fight against. I fight against literally boards. I've been on 3. I'm on 1 right now, where the majority of them are against it. So that's what I see. Right. So I think that would be a good thing if we could get that kind of information.
I see Vince sneaking up behind you there. He sees that too.
Perfect. The second question relates to the first, as far as the focus has been very much the rural districts. The urban areas right now, we are very susceptible to the NDP taking over if this goes sideways. You've talked about the fact that we hold a position with Danielle, but the challenge is we won by very little, and we lost every single MLA seat in Edmonton. Do you want to address that just a little bit?
Well, I would like to. Organizing in Edmonton is like we'll come, like we're here tonight. And to tell you the honest to God truth, if you want to organize a half a dozen meetings in the next 3 weeks, we'll come. It doesn't have to be me either. I mean, we can come. I'm doing one tomorrow night with Keith Wilson. We're going to be in Morinville tomorrow night. We're going to be doing that meeting. That's the first time him and I have ever been together, except on the ledge, on the floor of the ledge. And so if we're wanting to get this message out in front of as many people as we can. I've reached out to the East Indian community here through Ranjit, and we're talking about trying to get something organized with that. And you're right, we've been in rural Alberta, but here's what I want everybody to understand here. This is a cumulative vote, right? It's not by riding. So we can actually win this with rural, okay? Just understand that. But the whole thing I want you to understand is we don't want to win it with rural. We want to win it big with Edmonton and Calgary and Red Deer and everybody involved. Okay, so just so you know. So there's 2 clear steps here, right? We're gathering signatures so we can get a referendum. The number 1 goal right now is to get signatures. So we've got a limited amount of time, so where do we go get the signatures? Where we know they are, okay? And like I said, Edmonton's been doing great. They've been actually leading the way in signatures. So it also shows me that there's strong conservatives in Edmonton. And every single vote in Edmonton is going to be the same as everywhere else. It's going to be like 1.5 million for us and maybe 1 million for them. And it doesn't matter where those votes come from. So we will do everything we can, but don't forget, Dale, here's the other thing. We're consciously looking at talking to the cities from May to October, right? That is going to be a 6-month deal. I'm totally aware of that. Right now, I'm chasing signatures down. That's the most important thing. Without this, we're in Game 7 of Round 3 here. If we don't win Game 7 of Round 3, we don't go to Round 4, right? So once we get into Round 4, then we're going to chase the cities harder, I promise. And you know what? We're going to probably put 20, 25 speakers on the road and do 400, 500, 600 events around Alberta. Yeah. So, and elections Alberta, I'm not supposed to talk about elections Alberta, but just saying, we're in court with them, it seems like every other week or every week. So we're terrified to put anybody else in the room or anybody on the road, depending on what they're going to say. And I'm responsible, I kind of understand the rules, and so I'm responsible for it. It was the only reason I'm doing most of it right now. So yeah, but you know, I mean, we've got a litany of great speakers, and people get to, you know, and I organized a meeting a month for 2 years for TBA in Bonnyville, and I understand how important it would be to get one guy, and then 30 days later get a different guy, and then another day get a different guy, unless you're making a big event, so that we could keep people interested. It's like coming home, it's like a homecoming. You all come into the room here, you feel like you're all part of this group, makes you feel good to be part of the group, and you know, Amway did it forever. They had meetings once a month, and everybody left there rejuvenated and went on and sold a bunch of product. All right, Vince, here we go.
Okay, last question.
Hang on to that mic.
I'm hanging on.
That's the cherry on top.
You can let go. Hi, Mitch. Welcome to Edmonton.
Oh,
Everybody
yeah,
give
thanks,
him a big
Mitch.
hand, please. Yeah. I just want to back up what Dale was alluding to, but I want to point out, when I've been doing the canvassing, I have sensed a serious undertow, a serious undercurrent here in Edmonton with, of all places, unions. I went into one home, 12 signed in that home, and those were all either cops or nurses or teachers, every single one of them. And they said they're all talking about it, not around the shop stewards, right? They're
So Vince, who doesn't want a 20% increase in pay?
Yeah.
I mean, those are the guys, the union guys are the guys that are going to take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
Nobody else is ever going to see that. You'll never see that again in your life. You'll never see that again in your life. And actually, the funny part is that you could take it a step further and take all of the tax away and maybe get another 20% increase in pay if we could get to keep our resources and develop them here. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, no, I have a question not to Mitch, it's to the people here. A couple of years back, we had an event at Rogers where we brought Tucker Carlson to town.
I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
We filled a stadium, folks, in Redmonton. We filled the stadium. What do you think it will say to our premier, to the rest of Canada, if we hold the biggest rally for independence this nation has ever seen in Redmonton?
Woo! Let's do it.
I'm good with it. But you know what? Calgary's going to feel slighted because we had the last biggest one in Edmonton. That's all right, you guys, we can compete. I'm good with having two. One north, one south. That'd be great.
We want to fill a field. Yeah. We want to make this thing like in the neighborhood of 100,000. That's what we would like to see.
I like the way you think, Vince. No problem.
Thank you.
I'm good with it. All right?
Okay.
Oh, yeah. You're gonna, okay. No, you got it. It's all yours.
Could I introduce you?
All right, I brought you in. I get to send you home. 3 things. First, this is by far the biggest, most exciting grassroots, volunteer-driven thing I have ever experienced in my entire life. So a quick round of applause for every volunteer who brought us here tonight. Thank you very much. Number 2, we do need a little more volunteer help making nice little piles of chairs of 6, all right? So put your chair on your neighbors as you're heading out. We'll make little piles of 6, and then we can put them all away. Hold on. I'm not done. Number 3 is my personal promise that when we win this thing, I am going to lead the drive to have statues made of people like Mitch. And I want school children singing songs to them as well. Thank you very much. Please stack your chairs. We're going to do this.
Thank you very much. You do awesome.
And don't forget tomorrow in Morinville at 7 p.m. with Keith Wilson. That will be fantastic. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. So we'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow in Morinville. That will be fantastic. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the super chats that was very kind of you. Helps put things there. And thanks for sharing this, and thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you tomorrow and next week as well. That will be fantastic. Bye. Thanks, Max. Thank you, Max. That's awesome. Love you. That's awesome.